Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We are Baltimore positively rocking our way here through a winter of discontent and changes in management in different ways. We're going to be doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, brought to you by the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with GBMC as we get it out on the road. We have some new sponsors too. I'm wearing my Planet Fitness gear here because I was gearing up for Sarasota, Florida with Luke, but credentialing matters kind of got in the way, and we're landlocked here, but certainly thinking about baseball, talking about baseball. This dude here has been my dude for baseball for 31 years now. Um, Dude, it'll be Jeffrey Mayer will be 30 years this October, right? 96, right? October 96.
Uh, I mean, you're right, but I just heard you say 31 years, and I just saw the vast majority of my life flash before my eyes.
And a
It's
lot of bad baseball, Alan McCallum. A lot of bad
yeah,
baseball, I may say, right?
some good, but mostly bad. Yes, there's no doubt about that.
For those of you new to the party, Alan was my ballpark reporter 30 years ago. Some people aren't even 30 years old. Um, Dude, I don't know where to begin another year with another year of ownership and the Rubenstein era, Rubenstein and the Epstein files of all things. And John Harbaugh's boss is going to lose his gig over that, I guess. Maybe. I don't, I have no idea. But the baseball thing, and Luke and I did an hour earlier in the week just on the labor part of, is this the last season for a while? It certainly feels like the last season under the old world of whatever money, digital, stadia, club seats, big contracts, big markets, small markets, that we're on the cusp of some kind of change that's brought about by media, by the game, by the whiteness of the game, by the age of the game. And these guys who bought in, I don't know where they are. They're certainly not citizens of this town, but the notion that they've made the team better, I'm in. Pete Alonso, better. They spent almost $19 million dollars on a number four starter, maybe three, whatever. But like things are different without Angelos, without question. I don't know where the real plan with the stadium and the money and the digital and the 99 bucks for the Masson thing and like all of that. I'm into that era of how is this sustainable? I'll buy that they're a um, playoff caliber team as opening day kicks off. I'll buy that. I'll sell that. I'll talk about that. Hopefully, we're going to be talking about an above 500 team all year. But I'm just trying to get the plan. And I don't, 2 years into this, I think they've done a really poor job, the local guys, of just sort of like re
Messaging,
recruiting people.
messaging to the public. It's good to talk to you. There's certainly a lot to talk about. Certainly, the from a sort of global baseball standpoint, the news that Tony Clark is expected to step down as the MLBPA directors of that's huge news with an impending work stoppage at the end of the season. Uh, Certainly talk about that, but certainly in terms of the Orioles, yeah, on paper they're better than they were last year. I know this time last year, I, in my head, what I thought was if literally everything goes right, they'll be fine, and nobody believed that everything was going to go well. This year is different. They have spent money. They brought in pieces. We can debate how strong those pieces are. I would have liked to have seen Ron Suarez here. Um, you know my feelings about Bo Bichette. I will say virtually every pitching move the Red Sox have made in the last two seasons, Garrett Crochet, Sonny Gray, Ron Suarez, and the like, are moves that I absolutely believe the Orioles should have made. And if they had, we'd be having a celebratory conversation. But the Orioles are
As
better.
opposed to Pete Alonso, you're saying, from a money standpoint.
They certainly needed. They still. I think we all would have said they still need a better offensive piece in the lineup, and whether that was Alonso or Bichette.
Well, they think Holliday and Rutschman and Westburg and maybe Cows, or I don't know. They think these are more pieces, right? I mean,
They're big.
they better be pieces, or Tyler Ward and Tyler O'Neill and the Taylor Ward. Like I get all the Taylors and the Tylers and the 30 home run guys until they
Yeah.
do it. But they didn't waste money on Santander. They didn't get lost in the weeds with Burns with the injuries, right? And they feels like they've nursed Bradish back and that they got Rogers in a place where it feels like they're an improved version of last year, but they were a last placed outfit. And we are counting on these bats in the way we were counting on them last year. And that's really the part that let everybody down. And I do think that they're not going to wow anybody with the glove this year. I mean, anywhere,
No.
right? So that's going to be a deficiency for them.
Look, Ness, if you're a naysayer, you can make strong arguments about this team not being good enough. And if you're an optimistic person, you can make pretty good arguments about this team being good enough. And the truth is, you can say that about virtually any team in sports, period. Here's what's Trevor Rogers was probably the biggest and best story for the Orioles last season. I think we all believe Kyle Bradish, when he's healthy, is a top tier pitcher. I don't know if you say a top 10 or a bona fide number one, but he's a top tier pitcher when he's healthy. I like what I've seen. I like what the numbers say about Shane Baz and how his maturation should go. And for all the people that are saying that the Toronto Blue Jays are the best team in the American League East, they replaced Chris Bassett with a guy who is supposed to be a top tier pitcher, but while has taken the ball and eaten a lot of innings, has consistently been less than he was expected to be, starting with his time in the White Sox. And Anthony Santander's on the shelf again. So, and they lost Bo Bichette. So,
well, that's the one thing.
better?
Elias hasn't wasted money. A little bit on Gary Sanchez, a little bit in the bullpen 2 years ago, but
they wasted some money on Tyler O'Neill so far. But you're right. I mean, look, he has highly rated players, and if some of them had followed the positive upward track that we expected last year, this team would have finished not in the playoffs, but probably over 500. Virtually all of their offensive players regressed last season. It is unlikely that will happen again this year. So if you put Pete Alonso right in the middle of that and take some of the pressure off of the other players around him exponentially, if they can still stay healthy, it is reasonable to assume that they will have a bounce back season, at least some of them. You would expect that from Gunnar. If Jordan Westburg, and he's already hurt, can give you 130, 140 games, you would expect that. It's hard to say what you would expect from Jackson Holliday right now. Having a surgery on the hamate and coming back, I think that the expectations have to be subsided a little bit. And I don't know if any of us believe in Colton Cowser at this point, but Adley Rutschman was a 1-1, so you would like to believe at some point he's going to find some version of that form again. The point is, they have enough talent in this lineup that, while not expecting all of them to take a leap forward, you certainly expect three or four of them, and that's, if you put that with Alonso and Ward and the other pieces they have, that's pretty good. Defensively, this team makes me a little nervous. I like the starting pitching. Does it match up with a fully restored New York Yankees rotation? No. Does it with a fully ready to go Red Sox rotation? Probably not. But when you put all the pieces together, I think they can compete in the American League East. I would have liked to see them do more in the bullpen. I would have liked to have seen them get a real center fielder. And one of the things about bringing in Pete Alonso is that they had first base DH guys in abundance, and now they have to figure out what they have to do with some of them. Now, maybe that will bring back some of the pitching that we think this team could benefit from. But I would have liked to have seen Kobe Mayo in an Orioles uniform find his form. I think we're all sort of hoping that Heston Kjerstad reemerges in his career in an Orioles uniform. All those are all wild cards that could go.
But this is the time of the year for the at-bats there, Alan, for that stuff, right? For the Kjerstads and the Mayos to step up and take the at-bats. This Blaze guy that they dealt for, and everybody's like, "Why are you dealing for him?" Oh, Holiday's out through the All-Star break. Okay. Um, it
Dylan
hasn't
Beavers
been
and
good
Jeremiah.
fortune for the Westburg Holiday news. I don't like that. I don't
Yeah.
like that. That's 1,000 at bats I need this year to be really premium, step it up, all star caliber at bats. That that already makes me nervous for the offense and whatever they feel like they've added with Alonso and Ward.
So the reality of any team in sports is that not everybody's going to stay healthy, and you have to be able to weather that storm. That's why you want depth. Certainly, from a pitching standpoint, you want that, but also offensively. Now, Mountcastle, Mayo. I was a fan of Jeremiah Jackson, Dylan Beavers, Heston Kjerstad. If you have those players around, in theory, they should be able to fill some of those gaps, at least offensively. Again, I don't know how the defensive match fits with all those players, but they have enough pieces in theory to weather injuries right now. That's a big roster to manage, and they have a rookie manager in Craig Albernez who's going to have to show what he can do. Mike Elias has to be diligent and flexible to be able to maneuver a roster like that. They have pieces. They, in theory, have talent. Now they have to all come together to show what they can do. But again, I mean, you've got other teams that are having injuries that are going to impact what happens in baseball as well. So it's not just the Orioles. Everyone has to figure that out. The Orioles are our hometown team, so they're the ones we focus on, and it's important that they show that they're a professional organization that knows how to maneuver around these things.
Anybody late to the party? Alan McCallum's here, back visiting with us, talking some baseball. All right, so you didn't love the Alonso deal. I haven't given you oxygen on Bassett. Boz, you're up on the Grayson Rodriguez deal for Ward, which um, we'll see. I mean, time will tell on that. I hate giving pitching away, but if they didn't believe in him anymore, didn't believe in his shoulder, just didn't believe in him. Get me a here, get me a now. I got to win games this year. You're not doing me any good as a maybe.
Yeah.
They've eliminated some maybes, right? And we go back to Charlie Morton and Sagano last year, and Kyle Gibson after that, and look, Suarez, throw any of the guys that are just guys, Cade Povich, any of that. What's real? Dean Kramer or better is real for me. And 28, 30 starts and adding Bassett and the fact that they spent $19 million Valentine's Day week to buy pitching, you know, John Angelos and Peter Angelos aren't around here anymore, Mr. Arrighetti, whoever you are. But they're doing things in a different way financially, for sure.
So I feel like the Orioles did a delayed three-team trade. They got Taylor Ward and Shane Baz for Grayson Rodriguez going to the Angels and a mess of prospects going to the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, to me, that's basically what they did. And Rodriguez and Baz, I sort of see as a one swap. Talent with injury histories, but high ceiling potential. So yeah, I would have liked to have seen Grayson Rodriguez reach his potential as an Oriole, but if it wasn't to be, it wasn't to be. I think Baz fills that role fairly well. Again, the hope is that Bradish and Rogers show themselves to be top tier pitchers that can handle the top of a rotation. I think if you look at Chris Bassett, I've thought for years that he's a highly underrated pitcher in baseball. To be able to pitch in the American League East to an ERA of at or under 4 while throwing a ton of innings and answering the bell consistently, that's a pretty good resume for a 21st century starting pitcher. I don't feel like he's Charlie Morton at the end of his career, even though he's in the back half of his 30s. And I think that he's a really good fit for this club right now. And then you look at Dean Kramer, who, as I've said to you before, his injury at the end of the season, where he missed a couple of starts, makes me a little nervous, but has answered the bell and has been, short of the first month of the year, a pretty solid bottom of the rotation pitcher. And then they have some other pieces. One of the things that I don't quite understand about Mike Elias is, there are so many guys out there that have been starting pitchers that were brought into other teams on minor league deals, whether it's Walker Bueller or a couple of the lefties that have been out there. I don't understand why he doesn't take a flyer on those guys just to have depth. I understand that they have Zach Eflin, and that he's going to be a guy that I think if he's healthy can help this rotation. But it couldn't have hurt the Baltimore Orioles to have a couple of guys in queue that were willing to accept minor league deals and prove that they're ready to make the team. And if they don't, then you can move them or let them go at the end of spring training. I would have liked to have seen some of that happen. I assume that means he's making way for his young, whether it's Kate Povich or McDermott, what have you. There are plenty of young guys, but having some veteran arms would have been helpful. Same thing for the bullpen. This club is in a far better position than they were this time last year. And what is required for them to succeed the way we want them to is for some of these guys that are on the fringe, on the periphery, both the young guys in Mayo and Kerstad. I'm sure at some point during this year we'll see a Kate Povich all take a step forward. And then a guy like Tyler O'Neill, who in a lot of ways has been lost to this, has 2 more years on a contract, and just 2 years ago hit 30 home runs for the Boston Red Sox. For him to actually play some games and show up. I mean, they have much more balance right to left right now, at least on paper. And when you look at the left-handed pitchers in this division, from Crochet to Suarez to Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, that's going to matter. There were way too many left-handed bats from the young talent, and they needed some balance. And now they have it. That puts them in a much better position than a lot of other teams. And I can't swear that I was aware of it until this offseason, but there's a dearth of right-handed hitting, particularly right-handed with power, in baseball right now. And having a stockpile of some of those players is an advantage, particularly in the American League East right now. So
especially when you move the fence in again.
Yeah, right. So we'll see how that plays out. But I wouldn't tell you that I'd say give Mike Elias an A+ for the offseason, but it's hard not to look at it and say he's not worthy of a B+ or an A given where they were coming from. Which after they traded away the bulk of their bullpen last year at the end of the season was pretty far away to go. He had a lot to do, and he did a decent job. He did a decent job this offseason.
Alan McCallum is here. He's our longtime baseball voice. So, whether it's Sale, Crochet, Suarez, pick any of these guys. If their arms fall off, we've all got problems. We're looking at Bradish as an is and as a resurrection project. And Rogers, based on what we saw the last 9 weeks of last year, awesome. The import of Bassett, paying him. I'm on all. I like Eflin. I'm on all of these deals. I'm good. I'm good with the plethora of arms. I'm good with what they've done. I'm good that they didn't spend a lot of money. But the industry and where money is, and the Red Sox spending it, and the Blue Jays now being a big market again, none of that plays into the Orioles' advantage, except that they don't see them 26 times a year anymore, right? Like
Right.
it used to be every other weekend you had the Red Sox or the Yankees coming in and beating your brains in, right? And Toronto and Tampa felt the same way, being in the division. At some point, this sport's got to fix itself. This feels like the year that might be happening. I don't want to lead you down that road of temptation of talking labor for at least another 5 minutes till we get through the team. But I think that sits on the backdrop of it financially in some franchises. And I don't even know if these guys even know what they've signed up for, because they signed up for this gravy train ride where the state was giving them all this money and the city, blah, 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 and Angelos is dead. And here we are. And we have Gunnar Henderson and Radley Rutschman and a genius, like all of that. And then now we have last place and the fans don't care. They've pissed everybody off. And Katie Griggs has highly offended me. And as you know, that's usually for life, Alan. She might not know that. But I don't walk the streets here and people are like, I can't wait for opening day. I got my jersey. Like, they have $38,000 seats that they ripped the Henneman press box out for that they can't sell. I would have told him that.
Yeah.
Like they've done a lot wrong here the first 2 years. And if they can buy their way into your heart by winning games, that's great. But then there's going to be, do you go down there with your sister and spend money the way you used to? And does it mean anything to you? Does it mean anything to people younger than you? Luke's taking his niece for the first time. She's 4 this year. So he's talked to me about that 5 times and it's not even March. He's excited about it. And that's awesome. Now we hope she gets excited about it. And I'm like, well, I'll throw the crab cake in at Fadley's. But I do think, I don't want to be the old Hispanic guy or make you the old African American guy out on the lawn waving the flag for Brady Anderson and Cal Ripken and, to come back or whatever. I don't know what it's going to be, but this is like the turning point where like D'Angelo's boys are gone. They took their bags of money. These guys have come in with bags of money. It feels to me like they don't know their head from their ass. But the baseball side is they've given Elias money. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to put a representative product on the field. But you know, their injuries away and the Holliday and the Westburg away from us saying, well, they just didn't get up the mountain this year because they didn't spend X on Y. But the pitching part of this and all of the pitchers I've named and all of the big contracts involve a level of risk that even if you have a lot of money, you have a lot of money because you weren't willing to take on some of that kind of bad, dumb risk. But the baseball thing, as you've said from the beginning, when you and I used to fight about this stuff 20 years ago with Peter Angelos, it's all funny money to these clowns when they roll off with $4 billion anyway. While they're here, are they really here to make it good, or are they here to make bobbleheads of themselves? I don't know. These dudes don't strike me as anything that has any authenticity at all to it. Now, will the team win this year? Yeah, maybe, but that's not going to stop the sport from shutting down at the end of the year, which is a bigger concern when you're putting this contracts together and a real strategy to try to really own the team for 10 or 15 years and make a difference in the city, as opposed to being a transactional owner.
Wow. So there's a lot there, Ness. I'll start by saying
Well,
this.
do you believe is what, that's what I guess I'm asking, right?
Yeah. Look, our entire society is in a transition point of built on many layers. And in baseball, we're seeing a ton of teams that have broadcasting issues. We all know that social media and the internet has changed the way people consume their entertainment. Baseball and every sport in America has to contend with that. You have the whole gambling aspect of things. And yeah, if you're David Rubenstein and his group and you take over the team and you think, hey, this is what could be better. We've got our own broadcast network. We've got a team of young budding stars, and we're going to win for the next decade. What could go wrong?
The sleeping giant theory is what it was here, right?
Sure. And it's impossible to have missed the whole Washington Nationals wanting to leave the network and how their existence impedes you from where the real money in the region is, being in DC and Virginia. That Masson as an entity, while it exists, is not going to be as valuable without them. And having to figure out the social media aspect of all of it and streaming. God, I didn't mean to not mention streaming. That is maybe the biggest piece of this whole thing. So there are tons of layers before you ever even get to the baseball team. That here's what I would assume, that David Rubenstein made his money by being able to see things that were coming in the future. So I have to believe, even if he wasn't ready for it in the way it has come, that they had to be aware of these issues on the horizon. And that getting ready for it and being able to address it in a positive way, not just for their own pocketbooks, but for the fans and the people who consume the product, is really essential. And I'm certainly not going to disagree with you that there haven't been mistakes made along the way here in the last couple of seasons for the Baltimore Orioles. But maybe more than you, I allow for rookie mistakes. There's a lot to do when you take over a team like this, particularly in this moment in time. The money it costs so much to do things now. I think people are less willing to take a chance on the team being good. I think people were excited 2 years ago after they won 101 games. Coming into the season, you had Corbin Burns. I think everyone was geared up for that. And then to see that they flamed out in the postseason again. And then I don't think anybody that was a fan of the team believed last year that they were set up to win. So there was a wait and see, and that didn't work out. And it certainly didn't help them sell any pre-tickets for the games, and it didn't help them sell tickets on the day of throughout the season. Um, Pete Alonso coming in, and I said this to you before, in the last couple of decades, it would have been rare for a star New York player to come to Baltimore. That's just something that wouldn't have happened in the last couple of decades. And to have it is a good sign that he is playing the good soldier and doing everything they could ask for him to promote the team and to be leader and to sort of have the troops gather around him is a really good thing. Chris Bassett's reputation is a really good thing. In terms of being a veteran who can galvanize a staff and have people listen to him and respect him, and hopefully have that show up on the mound as well.
That kind of
I
came
think,
from nowhere, right? I mean, that to
yeah,
me, whatever the war says, and I said this to Luke, I mean, I thought they were an upper 80s win team. The number was between 85 and a half and 89 and a half. It's not like you can gamble on it, Alan. You know what I mean? It's not like you can gamble on it. But I saw that number and I thought, I thought about our old friend who used to work here, would go out to Vegas on the weekends and walk up and down the strip trying to get better value on the end that he liked, which was if you're going to bet the under or the over, at 89 and a half, and you think that they're less than that, bet the under. If you like the over, get them at 85 and think they're going to be a good team this year, right? I thought that would move the line. I thought like they got a guy that's going to make 30 starts for them. They're going to be decent kind of starts for the most part. And if the notion is they're going to hit the ball and they better hit the ball, and they didn't hit the ball last year, but they better hit the ball this year, they have potential to hit the ball. They have potential to be lethal from hitting the ball
yeah,
if it's working. I mean, they do. So for that, that's different than having Ryan Flaherty around here and trying to talk me into Mark Reynolds and trying to talk me into, whatever, Ryan Mountcastle even. You're not trying to talk me into that. You're trying to talk me into Sam Basayo. And you're trying to talk me into maybe Colton Cowser because he was a first round pick and a lottery guy. And you're trying to talk me into Heston Kjerstad may have healed himself or whatever his issues were, that he has the tools, that all these guys have the tools. That's the argument for Holliday, for Westburg, for Rutschman, for all the guys that we're waiting on. But the pitching, way more important, as you've pointed out. And I don't know that I'd like to have. I think about Bassett and I think about what I think I'm going to get out of him, what the floor and the ceiling is with him. I like that better than even Bradish or Rogers for what the floor would be, which they're not going to take the ball. They get hurt.
look, I think a couple things. One, I think it's much more likely on a regular basis that Chris Bassett will be pitching in the sixth inning than Trevor Rogers or Kyle Bradish. Now, whether he's given up 3 runs or 4, I think there are a lot of nights where Kyle Bradish will probably come off the mound throwing 5 innings, giving up 2 runs, striking out 8, and walking a couple, but putting them in the position to win. And then you have to hope the bullpen can get you through the next 4 innings.
And you also have to hit the ball late.
Well, yeah,
like
and Chris,
when they've been good around here, they've hit the ball 7th, 8th, 9th inning, and being down 4-2 in the 6th isn't a crime,
even when they won 101 games, a lot of nights what happened was they sort of survived the starting pitcher and they scored 2 or 3 runs and they were either tied or down a run or 2. And then they beat up on bullpens a lot during that season. There should be 15 nights during this season where the Orioles win games 12-3. Unfortunately, I could also see some nights where they lose 12-11. The goal is to it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know this, to score more runs than you give up. And
you don't like the bullpen, do you?
I like Helsley. I like the idea of Tyler Wells being in the bullpen. I don't know what to expect from Kittredge. I really don't. I'm not sure what to expect from their left-handed relievers in the bullpen. Aiken's fine. I would have loved to have seen them bring back a Danny Coulomb. I know there were some rumors about them being interested in Jojo Romero from the Cardinals. I think that would have been a really good move. They have more work to do in the bullpen. And I I've come to believe that if you stay in the race long enough, a lot of teams that win go get the rest of the bullpen they need at trade deadline time. That way you can pick from the guys who've had the best seasons, because it's true. I mean, expecting the same bullpen to be good for 3 or 4 straight years is just not realistic in Major League Baseball. So if you build a team and you say their deficiency is the bullpen, but you get yourself into July to a point where, hey, we're in this race, we're either, leading the division or a couple of games out, and we can trade to get the bullpen pieces we need. I mean, that's not a bad system.
I felt that way. I keep saying that to Luke. Like opening day, they have more starters than they need. They have a little bit of a cavalry coming in Eflin that down the line. They're banged up with Holliday and Westburg, and that's a reality. It's not even March, right? So like, let's get square on that. That where expectations are with that. But pitching wise, I don't want them doing off seasons of spending tons of money on 3 relief pitchers that may or may not work with multi-year deals or
Yeah.
at all of that. You know what I like about relief pitching? Guys that can do it right now. And you can find that with some chump team like the A's who are going to have somebody in July that's worth a damn that you can then go and deal Colton Cows or Kobe May or whatever you want and get somebody who's doing it right now, not somebody who did it last year. Because to me, that's not no good, no bueno.
I would not tell you that I think the bullpen is bad. I'll tell you that I think it's incomplete. And as we're both saying, going out and completing it in July is fine, but you have to do it. And I think we've all been concerned about Mike Elias not following through on things either in the offseason or at the trade deadline. If you know you need the pieces, you have to be willing to give something up to get them.
Well, I'll tell you what, Luke puts it back to the minute that Batista got hurt. The minute that he got hurt, it has never, ever really been good since then.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, what was that, September of 23? Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been right since. And, another piece in all this.
But they've been trying to buy it, is my point, right? Because you can't grow it.
Yennier Cano has had one great season, and he's been searching for that ever since. He's still here. I didn't realize how old he was until about a year ago. But, there's talent in there. He just needs to find it again. They have pieces. The defense is another story. I like Gunnar really matured defensively at shortstop during last season. And I think they need a center fielder. Colton, I guess, can hold it down, but I don't think he's a real. I think his best position is left field. He needs to hit. So there are things about the team that give me pause, but they're a better team than they were this time last year. That's what I'm willing to say.
You betting the over or the under? Let's get square on this right now. Let's go. Over or under? Not they're gonna be a playoff team, Alan?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a playoff team. I wouldn't pick them to win the division, but I can see them winning a wild card spot. Yes,
I do too. Yeah, so I'm thumbs up.
Particularly because I think the Central is really down. I know the Tigers, on paper, their pitching staff is pretty good, but I think Cleveland and Minnesota just lost their top pitcher. It sounds like for the year. So I think the Central is really down. I think the Astros are down. So I think the majority of the wild card teams are going to come out of the American League East. One of the things about the starting pitching is that sometimes it's not how good your team is. It's how do they stack up well against their competition. And if you match them up from a 1-5 rotation against the Yankees and the Red Sox in the second half of the season, they might not look great. But as you mentioned earlier, thanks to there no longer being a completely unbalanced schedule, the Orioles have more non-American League East opponents where they can build their record. So I think they're in good position to contend. And as we all know, getting into the playoffs is really the thing you need to do. And if you don't win the division, you need to start winning right away because there's no room for error in those moments. And the Orioles have had some error. They've been to the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, and they didn't show up. So that's a whole other piece of the story. But as I said to you before, and I fully believe this, and I think a lot of people don't take this into account, that right now at this moment, it is easier to get into the playoffs in Major League Baseball than at any time previous to this in history. And that said, once you get in, it is harder to win the World Series once you get in because you have more teams to compete with and you can't have any missteps. So to assume, even with the Dodgers, that a team is going to win the World Series right now is a foolish thing because you have more obstacles to get past once you're in.
All right. It's my goal to go to a ball game with you this summer. I don't know. It might be in Frederick, might be in Baltimore, might be in Aberdeen, might be in Philadelphia. I don't know. We're going to figure something out. All right.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's play ball. Let's play two. He's Alan McCallum, our longtime baseball insider. I am Nestor. We're going to be doing baseball here all summer long. If there's any breaking news, you'll get it first on the WNST tech service. It's all brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. And I'll even get my dude Bill Cole back on so we can yell at each other about democracy and things like that. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking. Baltimore positive. Stay with us.